On Mother's Day, my own kids were planning to sell me along with a display case. Me, Bradley, 65 years old, widower, jeweler. For 20 years, I've been cutting stones so the light practically begs to stay. I was preparing a special family ties promotion, delicate chains with heart-shaped clasps, mother-daughter sets, 12% off from May 10th to 12th, and embossed cards. I spent $4,380 on printing, $2,100 on packaging, and $1,760 on local radio ads. The showcase centerpiece? A 2.1-carat sapphire, like a June night sky, priced at $8,990 with a tagline. Memory is stronger than steel. I wanted people to remember their mothers, not count my money. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Morning of May 9th, as I sorted bracelet plates, I noticed silence in the shop felt strange. My brother Shane, the quiet type with golden hands, had oiled the door hinges so they wouldn't squeak. For the holiday, everything should sing, not squeal, he said. Nicole from accounting brought in the ledger. Sapphire purchases, $12,400. April revenue, $182,000. All steady. Only my daughter Tiffany was acting like a flashing banner ad. Smiling, shining, but her eyes empty. My son Zachary had on a new jacket and spoke too sweetly. Dad, Tiffany and I have new plans for Sunday. New plans. I'm a widower. Their mother, Jennifer, passed away December 18th, 3 years ago. This Mother's Day, I wanted her photo by the register, to say a few words. And they new plans. By noon, Ashley, our floor manager, stopped in. Brad, tomorrow will be packed. $27,000 in pre-orders. Perfect. I checked the cards printed with a quote. Family is a pattern that's never unraveled. Then Shane whispered, Brad, look at my phone. Found something on Zachary's old company tablet. Looks like it's about us. I took it, and my blood ran cold. Subject line, SBA draft, $6 million. Buyer, Aaron and Company. Private equity. Signers, Tiffany B. Initiator, Zachary B. Approval. Closing date, May 12th, 2 p.m. Note. Announce at sale. New vision for Bradley Jewelry. Broker commission, $180,000. Not a single word about me. Not as founder, not as father. Shane, is this him selling the business? He nodded. And there's more. Email saying you're emotionally tired and will agree if cornered. I opened Jennifer's old laptop, dug through backups, and there it was, Dec_12 made at PPTX new plans. Slide 3, Phase 1, restructure. Phase 2, asset sale. Phase 3, workshop liquidation. Liquidation of my workshop. Just then, Tiffany's voice drifted in from the sales floor. Dear friends, today we announce sweet as sugar on teeth. Shane leaned in. Do we crush them now or tomorrow in front of Full House? That's when my phone buzzed, new email. Final signatures, May 12th, 12:30 p.m. condition. Found a not informed before announcement. I clicked open. The email I'd opened had a PDF attached, labeled final_PDF. The first lines hit me like a hammer to the skull. The parties have agreed to transfer 100% of Bradley Jewelry's assets to the amount of $6 million USD. Only the signature lines at the bottom remained. Empty fields for Tiffany and Zachary. And my name placed under founder, not involved in management. I clenched my jaw so hard it creaked. 42 years of work. Every showcase, every machine, every drop of sweat in these walls. And my own children had decided to write me off as a non-participant in my own business. Shane silently poured me a strong black coffee. No sugar. We both knew I didn't need sweet right now. It's time to pin them down, he said. I raised a hand. No, we'll hit them in public when the place is packed, when they already feel like they've won. I knew an empty room strike was just a fight. A strike in front of witnesses? That was the end of their reputation. That evening, I locked myself in the workshop and began gathering evidence. Old email threads from backups, abandoned draft presentations, even voice memos from their phones that had synced to the company cloud. Within 2 hours, I had 27 files on a flash drive, each one a nail in the coffin of their deal. But it wasn't enough. I needed to catch them in the act, in a way they couldn't wriggle out of. I called an old acquaintance, Aaron. Yes, the same one named in the emails as the buyer. We'd worked together 20 years ago, and he still owed me a favor. Aaron, I said into the phone, we need to talk. And trust me, this meeting will be worth a lot more to you than $6 million. He went silent, then exhaled sharply. Bradley, you know they were planning. And then in the workshop stillness, I heard the click of the door lock behind me. Someone had come in, and I recognized the voice immediately. Dad, we need to talk about tomorrow's announcement. I turned slowly. Tiffany and Zachary stood there, and in my son's hands, an envelope stamped with the Aaron and Company logo. Dad, Tiffany began, smiling like we were at some Sunday picnic. Everything's ready for tomorrow's announcement. It's going to be a new chapter for all of us. I nodded silently, playing the part of the tired old man who'd stopped caring. Zachary handed me an envelope. The Aaron and Company logo gleamed in embossed gold. I tore it open and pulled out an invitation to a strategic partnership presentation. Date May 12th, 12 p.m. venue, Riverstone Hotel Conference Hall. We wanted you there, my son said, his eyes slightly averted. It's important for the image. For the image, mine, the image they plan to use as a shield for their deal. Of course, I said, swallowing my irritation. I'll be there. They left, pleased with their transparency, and I immediately called Shane. We need to prepare a little surprise. I told him, one that makes sure the audience learns everything at the same time. That night, Shane and I worked like we used to, only instead of crafting jewelry, we were building a trap. I put together a presentation that mirrored their new vision slides, but with some special additions, email exchanges, wire transfer charts, excerpts from their messages to Aaron. Shane tested the sound system. The hall's microphones would play not only my voice, but also the audio recordings I'd selected. By morning, the plan was set. Wait until Tiffany announced a new era, then hit them with everything. The last step, getting Aaron to play his part. I sent him a couple of files. His reply came fast. I'll be there, and you better be ready for what I'm going to tell you. On the evening of May 11th, I stepped out of the workshop and noticed a black car parked across the street, clearly watching the entrance. The window rolled down slightly, and I recognized the eyes. It was Aaron, and he wasn't smiling. Aaron sat in the car like a man who already knew that tomorrow, not everyone at the table would survive, at least in the business sense. He opened the door, nodded for me to get in. The smell of fine leather mixed with a faint trace of cigar smoke. He always smoked a cohiba before serious talk. Bradley, he started without a greeting. I'm not the villain you probably made me out to be in your head. Yes, they came to me first. Yes, I agreed to consider the offer. But damn it, I had no idea you weren't on it. I studied him, searching for a hint of a lie. I didn't see one. So what do you suggest now? I asked. I say we play a double game. I'll still show up tomorrow, but not as the buyer, as the witness. And if your kids think they control the script, we'll show them the script's already changed. His words poured over my simmering anger like oil on a hot skillet. It sizzled, but the plan became clearer. We set the details. Aaron would sit in the front row, wait for my signal, then confirm in front of everyone that the deal had been arranged behind my back. The night passed in preparation. I checked the flash drive, made a backup to cloud, and another for Shane's safe. At the Riverstone Hall, we'd already arranged with the technician, so my presentation could go live instantly. I even rented a small hidden camera to capture the crowd reaction and their faces. When the truth hit the screen, the morning of May 12th smelled of coffee and felt heavy, like before a storm. I arrived at the venue an hour early. Guests were already gathering, familiar client faces, old partners, local press. Tiffany was hugging everyone like the queen of the ball. Zachary was in a tie matching Bradley Jewelry's brand color. Pure marketing. I spotted them whisper with a man in a gray suit, the broker expecting his $180,000 commission. He He held a folder, and I knew it contained the final contracts. Shane stood near the wall, pretending to take photos, really watching their every move. 10 minutes before showtime, Aaron entered. One look, a small nod. We were ready. The host announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our special historic evening." Lights dimmed. The first slide flashed. New vision for Bradley Jewelry. Applause. Tiffany and Zachary took the stage. "Today we open a new chapter in our company's story." Tiffany began. "Our partners will help us reach international markets, introduce new technologies, and—" Her hand shook slightly holding the mic. Maybe she was nervous. "And make Bradley Jewelry a next-generation brand," Zachary continued. "For that, I caught Shane's glance. He gave the faintest nod toward the laptop. My cue. I stepped up. "Excuse me," I said, taking the mic from my daughter. "Before we go on, there's something I need to show you all." Slides lit up with their emails, letters to Aaron, money transfer diagrams. The crowd stirred. Someone gasped. The broker in gray went pale. I turned to my children. Their faces. But I didn't get to see it all. Because just then, 2 men in dark suits walked in, flashed badges, and said, "Bradley Brown, you'll need to come with us." I turned around. 2 men in suits stood at the entrance, blocking the way. The room froze. Even those still whispering about the slides went silent. "What do you mean? Come with you?" I asked, feeling a cold weight settle inside me. "A complaint's been filed," said the taller one. "We need to ask you a few questions regarding possible fraud and tax evasion." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Tiffany instantly put on the face of a saint who just heard tragic news. Zachary frowned, but I caught a flicker of satisfaction in his eyes. "Right now?" I asked. Immediately, the second man said firmly. I glanced at Aaron. He started to rise, but I gave the slightest shake of my head. Don't interfere. If this was a setup, stepping in would only play into their hands. "Fine," I said, but in front of witnesses. We stepped into the hallway, and only then did the taller man lower his voice. "Bradley, this isn't what you think. I'm a friend of Shane's. He asked us to get you out for a moment while he finishes the surprise." I stopped, processing that. "So there's no arrest?" "Of course not. We're not even cops. Just rented the suits for a little theater," he smirked. "Your audience and there's going to be twice as ready for the shock." I returned to hall a few minutes later, just in time to see a new slide flash up on the screen. A video recording of Tiffany and Zachary in their home. "Dad's old," Tiffany said, pouring wine. "He can't handle the workload. We just need to hit him with the facts." "And take control," added Zachary. "What's he even making on those sapphires?" "Pennies. We'll invest that $6 million way smarter." The room was silent, like before an explosion. Guests were already filming. "That's edited." Tiffany shouted, but her voice shook. Aaron stood and said, "No, I can confirm. I saw those emails. They approached me with a sale without Bradley's knowledge." The crowd erupted. Journalists thrust microphones forward. Clients stared at me and my children like we were strangers. I stepped toward the mic, ready to play my final card, a document that would seal their motives beyond doubt. But just then, a loud door slam came from behind. Nicole, our bookkeeper, entered, pale, hands trembling. She held a folder marked with a red stripe and whispered, "Bradley, it's worse than you think." Nicole walked toward the stage like she was stepping onto thin ice. I could see people in the crowd leaning forward, sensing that something even more scandalous was coming. "What is it?" I asked, taking the folder from her hands. I was preparing a report for the auditors. Her voice trembled. "I found transactions that bypass the official accounts." I opened the folder. The first pages were copies of payment slips. Recipients, offshore companies in the Virgin Islands. Amounts, $50, $80K each, regular transfers over the past 2 years. Listed purposes, consulting services and marketing. Signatures, Tiffany and Zachary. They were moving money out. I asked aloud, more for the audience than myself. "Yes." Nicole nodded. "The total is about $1.4 million. Someone in the crowd whistled. Journalists were already zooming in to film each page. "That's a lie," Zachary shouted, stepping forward. "We acted in the company's best interests." "In the interests of offshores?" Aaron cut him off coldly. "Interesting. Since when does a company's address match a private villa?" Tiffany tried to snatch the folder from me, but I stepped back. "Today," I said into the mic, "you've all witnessed what family and business betrayal looks like. They wanted to sell my workshop. They secretly funneled money away. At that moment, my phone rang. The sound was loud enough for the audience to hear me answer. "Hello." A man's voice came through, low and raspy. "Bradley, if you want to live to see tomorrow, leave the hall right now." I froze. "Who is this?" "Just remember," the voice went on, "your truth means nothing if you're not around to tell it. You've got 5 minutes." The line went dead. I slowly lowered the phone, looking out over the crowd. Shane was frowning. Aaron rose from his seat. Nicole looked like she might faint. And then I noticed a man in a black baseball cap standing by the exit, watching me closely. He gave a slight nod, like he was confirming the voice on the call. And behind him, the door was slowly closing. I didn't move right away. 1,000 possibilities ran through my head. Anything from cheap intimidation to a real threat. But the look in the man's eyes under that baseball cap told me this wasn't a joke. "Shane," I said quietly toward my brother, "if something happens to me, you've got copies of everything. Use them." He nodded, but I saw the worry flash in his eyes. I started toward the exit. The crowd parted, whispering. Some probably thought the arrest was still going on. The man in the baseball cap stepped aside and motioned for me to follow. We left through a service hallway. It smelled of coffee and cleaning solution. Footsteps echoing in the empty space. "Who are you?" I asked. "You can call me Tom," he replied. "And if you want your kids to live long enough to face a trial, you need to understand this game is bigger than just a family feud." We reached a side door where a black car was parked. He opened it and I slid inside. "Talk," I demanded. Tom glanced in the mirror. "The money they were moving offshore, it's part of a larger scheme. There are people who've already put down deposits for the sale of your business. If the deal falls apart, they lose big. And those kinds of people don't forgive." "Is that a threat?" "A warning," he said coldly. "Tonight, you've still got a chance to walk away alive. Tomorrow, you won't." I stayed silent. Faces from the audience flashed in my mind. The noise of the hall. Tiffany's eyes, full of fear and anger. "And what are you suggesting?" "Pretend to agree. Sign the papers. Take your cut. And disappear." "And if I refuse?" He shrugged. "Then we'll be reading your name in the obituaries, and it'll look like an accident." The car stopped at the hotel's back entrance. "Think about it, Bradley. You've got less than 24 hours, he said as he got out. Then he leaned closer. "And don't tell Shane or Aaron, or they'll be next." He walked away, blending into the evening crowd. I stood in the hallway, feeling my anger start to boil. Surrender? Take a payout and vanish? Never. I went back into the hall. The last slide was already on the screen, the audience buzzing. But as soon as I stepped in, I knew something had changed. On stage, next to Tiffany and Zachary, stood another person, and it was none other than Jennifer. I froze in the doorway, unable to believe my eyes. Jennifer, my Jen, the woman whose photo sat on my workbench, the one I'd told everyone had passed away 3 years ago, on December 18th. She stood on the stage, alive, real, in a dark blue dress, wearing that same smile that could once stop me cold in the middle of any argument. The audience gasped. Some people began to applaud. Others pulled out their phones. "Good evening." Her voice rang out firm and clear. "I think many of you are surprised." I saw Tiffany beaming, as if her trump card had just been played. Zachary, on the other hand, looked tense but kept silent. "Bradley," she continued, "you probably don't understand what's happening. But the truth is, I'm alive, and all this time I've been far away, because of you." A murmur swept through the room. I stepped forward. "Because of me?" I repeated. "Jen, what kind of nonsense is this?" It's not nonsense, Tiffany cut in sharply. Dad, it's time to tell everyone how you kicked Mom out of the house and forced us to hide the truth. I felt something tighten inside me. This was a lie. A filthy, calculated lie meant for public spectacle. You've lost your mind, I said. I never. Enough, Jennifer interrupted. We have proof, and tomorrow we're taking it to the police. At that moment, Aaron stood and spoke into the mic. I've known Bradley for 30 years. If anyone thinks they can throw out accusations like that without proof, it won't end well. But Jen just looked at him coldly. The proof will come, she said. And when the truth is out, Bradley will never run this company again. I could see the audience splitting, some ready to believe the scandal, others convinced of my innocence. Shane came up beside me and whispered, "This is staged. Her appearance is part of their plan. They want to break you emotionally so you snap." I took a deep breath. The anger was boiling, but I knew I couldn't react emotionally now. Fine, I said to the room. If someone has proof, let's see it now. Jennifer nodded, and Zachary pulled a thick stack of papers from a folder. It's all here, he said, shaking them. Financial fraud, personal threats, documents showing transfers to your personal accounts. I stepped toward him. But at that moment, the lights in the hall flickered and went out. The audience roared. Someone screamed. In the darkness, I felt someone grab my elbow and pull me toward the service exit. Quick! A whisper came right at my ear. Or, in a minute, it'll be too late. In total darkness, I tensed instinctively, trying to pull free, but the grip on my arm was firm and deliberate. We moved through a narrow hallway, the faint smell of metal and dust giving away that we were in the hotel service area. Who are you? I asked, keeping my voice low. Later, the voice replied, deep and familiar. Right now, we just need to get you out of here. We turned a corner, and I caught a glimpse of dim light from an emergency lamp. In that light, I saw my rescuer's face. It was Mark, the former security guard from my workshop, the one I'd fired 5 years ago for drinking on the job. Mark? What the hell? I muttered. I'll explain, he said, picking up the pace. But first we leave, before they realize you're gone from the hall. As if on cue, I heard footsteps behind us, someone moving fast. Mark shoved me through a door marked staff only, and we ended up in a crammed supply closet full of boxes and buckets. Listen carefully, he began. I'm on contract here with hotel security, and tonight I was paid to turn a blind eye to whatever happened in the hall. But I saw who's really behind this. It's not just your kids. I already figured it was bigger than that. I said, who else? One of the investors, a man who says you screwed him years ago. He's been waiting for this moment. Name, Mark. Simon Reeves. The name hit my memory like a hammer. Simon had once been my business partner. We imported gemstones together. But 10 years ago, he tried to sell a batch of fake emeralds, and I turned him in to the police. He did 3 years. Clearly, he hadn't forgotten. He's here. He was. Left right after your resurrected wife walked onto that stage. I clenched my fists. The pieces were coming together. My kids, Jennifer, the offshores, Aaron, and now Simon. Why help me, Mark? He looked away. Because if they take you down, I'm next. I overheard Simon saying he wants all witnesses gone. We slipped out a back exit into the hotel courtyard. Cold night air hit my face. Only a few lamps lit the parking lot, the shadows stretching unnaturally long. What now? Mark asked. Now I find Simon, I said, and if he thinks I'm going to sit back, he's dead wrong. Suddenly, a black SUV rolled around the corner with its headlights off. It crept toward us. Run, Mark shouted, but I stayed put, staring as the driver's window slid down. Inside in the dimness, I saw the eyes, and they were Jennifer's. I froze, staring into those familiar eyes. Jennifer was behind the wheel of the black SUV, her face half hidden in shadow. She didn't look confused or surprised. On the contrary, there was a cold determination in her gaze I had never seen before. Get in, she said curtly, more like an order than a request. I don't think that's a good idea, I replied, taking a step back. Bradley. Her voice was flat, emotionless. You don't have a choice. Mark tensed, stepping slightly in front of me as if to shield me. We're not going, he said firmly. Jennifer gave a faint smirk. Mark, you've always had too much heroism for a security guard. You do realize you're next on my list tonight. The SUV inched forward, as if ready to hit us if we didn't move. I felt Mark's muscles tighten and decided to act. All right, I said. I'll go, but alone. No. Mark snapped. Brad, you trust her? I don't, I said quietly, but I need to find out what she's planning. I got into the vehicle. The door locked with a sharp click behind me. Jennifer pulled out smoothly, leaving the parking lot. Where are we going? I asked. To meet someone, she replied. Someone who's going to explain how you can get out of this alive. We drove for 20 minutes in silence. Only the occasional glow from streetlights lit her face. She looked older than I remembered, but there was still the same confident poise that had once drawn me in. Finally, we turned onto a dirt road and stopped in an abandoned warehouse. Out, she said. Inside, it was dark. Only a dim lamp burned in the far corner. Beneath its light stood a man in an expensive suit, Simon Reeves. Been a long time, Brad, he said with a smile that held no warmth. 10 years, to be exact. Could have been longer, I replied. Simon stepped toward me. I think you realize by now that this game was set in motion long before today. But I want to offer you a deal. What kind of deal? You sign away the company, take $3 million in cash, and disappear. In return, we guarantee your kids and brother stay alive. And if I refuse? Simon tilted his head slightly. Then tomorrow morning, the news will feature 2 dead bodies, and everyone will believe it was an unfortunate coincidence. I clenched my fists. You're threatening my family? No, he said calmly. I'm warning you. I took a step closer. And what if I decide to fight? He smiled like a predator. Then you'll have to do it without one very important thing. I frowned. Without what? Simon snapped his fingers, and from the shadows stepped a man carrying a black briefcase. He opened it and pulled out my flash drive with all the evidence. I stared at the flash drive like it was my own heart, ripped from my chest. It was the one, the emails, a money trail, the audio recordings. Everything I was counting on to blow up their plan was now in Simon's hands. Where did you get that? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Simon smirked. Brad, you trust people far too much. One of those you call allies has been playing for my team for a while now. Who? I asked, though the answer was already beginning to form in my mind. He just shook his head. Don't rush it. You'll find out soon enough. I stepped forward, but the man with the briefcase moved instantly between us. Something glinted under his jacket. Looked like a weapon. Don't be stupid, Simon said. You have one chance. Take the $3 million, disappear, and we forget each other exist. And if I just take the flash drive? His smirk widened. Then you'll pay for it in lives. I clenched my jaw. You forget, Simon. I know how to play dirty too. Maybe, he said, but this time I got a trump card you can't beat. I noticed Jennifer had been silent this whole time, standing slightly off to the side. She was looking at me like there was a canyon between us, and I couldn't tell where the act ended and anything real began. Jen, I said, you really got yourself into this? She looked away. I'm doing what I have to do. For what? I asked. To save you from yourself, she replied quietly. But Simon cut her off. All right, time's up. Either you agree now, or tomorrow your family makes the morning headlines. I fell silent. Faces flashed in my mind, Shane, Tiffany, Zachary, even Nicole. I realized every word I said now was either a shield or a bullet. I need to think, I said. Simon shook his head. You'll think somewhere else. He snapped his fingers, and 2 men came up behind me. One yanked a bag over my head. The other twisted my arms back. I tried to break free, but a punch to the ribs knocked the air out of me. Where are you taking me? I rasped. To a place where you'll finally understand there's no way out, Simon said. They dragged me through the warehouse, our footsteps echoing in the emptiness. Suddenly we stopped, and I heard a heavy metal door creak open. Cold air hit my face as someone shoved me forward. The bag came off. I was standing at the edge of an old quarry, dark water glinting far below. And right next to me, hands tied, gagged, stood Shane. Shane stood there, his face twisted with anger and pain. His eyes darted to me, and even through the gag I could tell he was trying to shout for me to stay away. "Surprise," Simon said, stepping closer. "I thought it might be easier for you to make a decision if you could see exactly what's at stake." I stepped forward, but the guard with the briefcase blocked my way. "Let him go," I said quietly, but with such force my ears rang. Simon smirked. "Bradley, you still think you can dictate terms? Here, you're a guest and not a welcome one." "He has nothing to do with this," I said, forcing my voice not to crack. "He does," Simon replied coldly. "He's your brother, your ally, the one who could carry on your fight if something happened to you. That makes him a threat, too." I knew any sudden move could turn this into a tragedy, but I couldn't just stand silent. "Fine," I said through clenched teeth. "Let Shane go, and I'll agree to your deal." Simon's grin widened. "You think I believe you? Do you have a choice?" I asked, locking eyes with him. He studied me for a moment, then waved his hand. One of the guards stepped up to Shane and removed the gag. "Brad, don't." My brother manager for the guard tightened the ropes on his wrists again. "See," Simon said, "even your brother knows your word means nothing." He gave a signal, and the guards pulled Shane right to the edge of the quarry. "Last chance, Bradley," Simon said. "Sign away the company, and he walks out of here alive." Cold sweat trickled down my back. My heart pounded so hard it throbbed in my temples. "Give me the flash drive," I said, "and I'll sign." Simon smirked. "We'll negotiate that somewhere else." He snapped his fingers, and two men grabbed my arms again. Suddenly, in the still night, a sharp crack split the air. A gunshot. One of the guards holding Shane collapsed into the dirt. The other bolted for the car. Simon froze, and from over the lip of the quarry a figure in a black jacket appeared, rifle in hand. "Let him go, Simon," a familiar voice shouted. I knew it instantly. Aaron. But before I could say anything, another shadow moved behind Aaron in the darkness, and I realized he wasn't alone. Aaron held the rifle steady, aiming straight at Simon. His face was tense, but in his eyes burned that same cold fire I'd seen only once before, back when we'd driven a gang of stolen gold dealers out of town together. "Let him go," Aaron repeated, stepping forward. "And let Shane go. Now." Simon raised his hand slightly, but there wasn't a trace of fear in his smile. He slowly turned his head, glancing over Aaron's shoulder. "I do what he says," I told him, trying to pull his attention toward me. "The problem, Bradley," Simon replied, "is that you don't see the whole picture." In that moment, a figure stepped from the shadows behind Aaron. A woman. For a second, I thought it was Jennifer again, but no, it was Nicole. She had a pistol in her hands, aimed at Aaron. "Put the gun down," she said coldly. "You don't want this to end right here, do you?" "Nicole." I breathed. "What the hell are you doing?" She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed locked on Aaron. "You're with them?" Aaron asked, not lowering his rifle. "I'm with whoever pays," she said, her voice steady and hard. Simon smirked. "See, Bradley? Everyone has a price." I felt the situation sliding straight into the abyss. One wrong move, and there'd be blood. "Listen, Nicole," I started. "You know they won't let you live when this is over." She narrowed her eyes. "I can take care of myself." "All right," Simon cut in. "Everyone lower your weapons. We're civilized people here." But in that instant, Aaron moved, quick and sharp, pulling the trigger. The bullet struck the dirt barely a foot from Simon's boot. Nicole fired almost at the same time, her shot grazing Aaron's shoulder. Chaos erupted. The guard with the briefcase lunged toward Simon, and I seized a moment to rush to Shane. The ropes around his wrists were so tight the skin was pale, but I tore at them anyway, ignoring the pain in my fingers. "Faster," he rasped. Another shot rang out. I spun around. Erin was down on one knee, and Nicole, her face twisted, kept him in her sights. "Game's over," she said. "Hand over the flash drive and let Simon walk, or he dies right here." "Nicole," I said, standing and locking eyes with her, "you don't know what you're doing." "I know exactly what I'm doing," she replied. Simon stepped forward. "Bradley, you got 10 seconds. A knot tightened in my chest. If I gave up the flash drive, it was over. If I didn't, Erin would die. 9, 8, Simon began counting. I stepped toward him. "All right." He squinted. "Smart choice." But then something shifted. From the darkness at the bottom of the quarry came a dull noise, like someone moving through water. Everyone froze, listening. Then, from that blackness, came a voice that sent ice straight through me. "Bradley, I have what you need." From the darkness at the bottom of the quarry, a figure emerged. At first, I saw only the glint of a wet jacket and drops of water streaming from his hair. Then, as he stepped into the moonlight, I recognized a face. It was Zachary, my own son, covered in dirt, with an unusually hard expression. In his hands, he held a metal case. "I think this is what you're looking for," he said, staring straight at me. Simon narrowed his eyes. "What are you doing here, boy?" "Saving my own skin," Zachary replied. "And maybe my father's." I didn't know whether to believe my ears. Just hours ago, he'd been standing beside Tiffany, ready to betray me, and now he was appearing out of the night with something he claimed I needed. "Open it," Simon ordered. "First, a guarantee," my son said. "Let Shane go." Simon smirked. "You've grown bold." Zachary stepped forward, holding the case like he was ready to throw it into the water. "Either he walks, or this ends up at the bottom of the quarry." I could tell there was no bluff in his voice. Simon saw it too. He glanced at his men, then waved a hand. A guard shoved Shane toward me. I caught my brother and helped him stay on his feet. "Now the case," Simon said. Zachary slowly undid the locks. Inside, under thick padding, lay my flash drive and several documents. I recognized them instantly. Contract copies, emails, offshore bank statements. Everything that could destroy them. "Where did you get this?" I asked. "Long story," he said, "and not the time." Simon reached out for it, but Zachary stepped aside and threw the case to me. I caught it, and in that same second, everything exploded into chaos. Erin, seizing the distraction, shot the guard covering Nicole. Nicole screamed as the bullet ricocheted off a rock. Simon bolted toward his car. "Run!" Erin shouted. We scrambled toward the quarry slope, stumbling over rocks. Shouts and gunfire rang out behind us. Bullets hissed past my head. Suddenly, a deafening blast erupted behind us. Flames flared. One of Simon's cars was on fire. In the firelight, I saw Nicole's face. She stood holding a lighter, a strange, almost manic smile on her lips. "Go!" she yelled. "I'll hold them off." We reached the top edge and burst onto an empty road. I turned to look for Zachary, but he wasn't there. "Where is he?" I asked Shane. He stayed down there," my brother said, breathing hard. "I think he went after Simon." At that moment, 2 shots echoed from the quarry below. Then silence. I gripped the case tighter, my chest tightening. If Zachary had betrayed us again, it was over. If not, he might already be dead. And then, in the still night behind us, came the sound of footsteps. Heavy, measured. We turned, and in the glow of the fire, a tall figure appeared at the top of the slope, holding a weapon. The figure slowly descended the slope, each step bringing more of his features into the firelight. It was Zachary. His face was pale, a fresh scratch on his cheek, his clothes wet and smeared with clay. In his hands he held a pistol, and at his belt hung an empty holster, likely taken off someone down below. "You're alive!" I breathed, clutching the case tighter. "What happened?" Zachary gave me a long, heavy look, then slowly nodded toward the quarry. "Simon won't be coming out," he said quietly. Those words held everything: fatigue, and something else I couldn't quite place. Shane stepped forward. "You killed him." Zachary didn't answer. He only lowered the pistol and wiped his face with his hand. We need to go. Now. We moved along the road, sticking to the shadows. Aaron followed behind, covering us despite his injured shoulder. He said nothing, but the tight line of his mouth told me he didn't trust Zachary one bit. Where's Tiffany? I asked once we were far enough away not to hear the gunfire and shouting. She's with them, Zachary replied, not meeting my eyes. But I think that's going to change soon. What does that mean? I asked, wary. You'll see, he said. We reached an old warehouse on the edge of town, a place we'd once used to store raw materials for the workshop. It was dark and silent inside. I set the case on the table, opened it, and checked the contents. The flash drive was there. The documents, too. With this, we can destroy them, I said, feeling confidence flare in my chest. Tomorrow morning, these papers will be with my lawyer and in the press. Zachary smirked. You think they'll let us live until morning? Shane slammed his fist on the table. We have to end this tonight. Aaron nodded. I can get a car and take this to someone we can trust right now. Suddenly, a faint metallic scrape broke the silence. We all turned toward the door at once. Zachary raised his pistol, and I grabbed the case. The door swung open, and there stood Tiffany. Her face was scratched, hair a mess, eyes blazing. We need to talk, she said, stepping inside. About what? I asked coldly. She looked at Zachary, then back at me. I know where they're keeping Mom. Ice gripped my insides. Jennifer? Tiffany nodded. If we move fast, we can still make it, but there's almost no time. Where? I stepped toward her. She opened her mouth to answer, but just then, a rock crashed through the window, shattering the glass. Taped to it was a note, with bold letters scrawled across it. Too late, and she dies. I tore the note from the rock, unfolded it, and felt my insides clench. The handwriting was big, bold, and instantly recognizable. Simon's, which meant he was still alive. It's a trap, Aaron said, looking straight at me. They know we'll rush to save her. And what do you suggest? I shot back sharply. Sit here and wait for them to kill her? Shane put a hand on my shoulder. Brad, if we go in blind, none of us will make it back. Tiffany stepped forward. I know where the place is. It's an old mansion by the river. They've been using it since before this all started. If we go now, we might have a chance. Zachary eyed her suspiciously. And how do you know that? Because I was there, she said, pressing her lips together. I helped them keep Mom there. The silence was heavy, like lead. I stared at my daughter, torn between rage and the need to believe her. Why tell us this now? I asked, because I realize they're not letting anyone go. Not her, not me, not you. I took a deeper breath. All right, you lead. We moved quickly. Aaron pulled an old van from a hiding spot, one we'd once used for hauling materials. It smelled of dust and oil inside, but it started on the first try. The drive to the mansion took less than an hour. We drove without headlights, relying only on the moonlight. The mansion loomed out of the darkness like a massive black shadow, with broken windows and peeling plaster. This is it, Tiffany whispered. We left the van in a line of trees and went the rest of the way on foot. Branches cracked under our boots, every sound seeming louder than it was. Zachary took point with his pistol. I followed with a flashlight aimed at the ground. Shane and Aaron covered the rear. A rusted chain-link fence surrounded the mansion. We found a gap and slipped through. She's on the second floor, one of the bedrooms, Tiffany said. But there's guards. How many? Aaron asked. At least 4, she replied. We split up. Aaron and Shane took the back entrance, while Zachary, Tiffany, and I went through the front. Inside, the air reeked of damp and mold. The floorboards groaned under our weight. Somewhere upstairs, a door slammed and a man's voice rang out. Get her ready. We're leaving soon. I knew that voice Simon's. My blood boiled. We climbed the stairs. A dim lamp flickered in the hallway. Behind one door, I heard muffled crying. I nodded to Zachary, and he quietly pushed it open. Inside, tied to a chair, was Jennifer. Her face was pale, hair tangled, but her eyes still alive. She saw me and shook her head frantically, as if trying to warn me. "Dad, behind you!" Tiffany shouted. I spun around. Simon stood in the doorway, pistol in hand. His smile was exactly the same as the day he tried to scam me 10 years ago. "Well, here we are again, Bradley," he said. "But this time, you're not walking away." Simon stood in the doorway, his eyes glinting with cold steel. The gun was aimed squarely at my chest. "Put the gun down," I said, taking a step forward. He smirked. "You still think you can set the terms?" Just then, a shadow moved behind him, Zachary. He came in fast and silent, his eyes showing neither doubt nor fear. "Let her go," I repeated. Simon opened his mouth to respond, but never got the chance. Zachary struck his shoulder, and the shot went into ceiling. We lunged forward together. The gun flew from his hand, and Aaron, appearing in the doorway, grabbed Simon by the collar and slammed him to the floor. Jennifer was in the corner, tied to a chair. I tore the ropes away, and she collapsed into my arms, sobbing. "It's over." "You're safe now," I told her, looking into her eyes. Tiffany stood off to the side, watching silently. Her face was weary and bitter, but I could see she was no longer the enemy. "Let's finish this," Shane said. He picked up the case and pulled out the flash drive. "By tomorrow, this will be with the police and all over the news." Simon lay on the floor, restrained, blood on his lip, silent. He knew he'd lost. We left the mansion just as the first rays of dawn cut through the mist over the river. In the distance, sirens wailed. Aaron had already called an old friend of mine in the police force. 2 hours later, Simon, his men, and several corrupt investors were in handcuffs. That evening, headlines blared with stories of the exposed scheme, the offshore accounts, and the attempted takeover of my company. I closed the workshop for a week so everyone could recover. For the first time in years, the family sat together at one table. We stayed silent for a long time until Jennifer took my hand and quietly said, "Let's not waste any more time." I nodded. Everything that had been broken would need rebuilding, but the most important thing was we were alive, and the game was truly over. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right.